welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit, and the man seated next to me was the original inspiration for the song Bop. His name is Mike Ross.
Yeah, I was the fourth Hanson.
I can see that.
I was a little too old and large for the group.
Couldn't
but
grow the hair long.
No, it felt weird. It really did, having an older guy with all these teenagers, preteens.
Yeah. And then Bop.
Well, that was it. They cut me out. We had another song before that called Unskinny Bop, but someone else stole it from us.
It's like a behind the music. Man, it's like VH1 all over again.
Yeah.
All right, so this week we have a bunch of movies on the marquee for you. But before we get into this, I want to say there were so many movies on the marquee at your local movie theater that we couldn't cover them all this week. I had 7 movies counted up that came out this weekend. We're not going to cover 7 movies. That's insane. So we chose some to review this time, and then took some of them and we're going to use them next week. So if you're wondering why we're not talking about Jumanji or perhaps a couple other movies, it is because we cannot review them all this week. We're going to save them because next week there's no new movies coming out.
But the cool thing is a lot of people out there has not seen most of these movies because the theater's been completely packed.
Yeah.
So all
Hard
our
to
reviews,
get into some of these movies.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Holiday break.
Yeah,
lots of flicks.
I think they're still getting like Star Wars spill off too, because
absolutely, I love going to theater. It's packed, except for when I can't get a seat. Thumbs down to that.
I'm going to tell you right now, I have a huge sense of deja vu.
Yeah,
like we've done this before.
I think we have. So let's get started though, and I'm going to get us started with a film that I saw called "Call Me by Your Name" from director Luca Guadagnino. Stars young man Timothy Chalamet. He plays a young man named Elio. Elio, this movie is set in 1983 in northern Italy, and Elio lives with his family. They're very well-to-do. His father, played by Michael Stolberg, is a professor, and he's got this great life of relaxing in this beautiful, serene place, just kind of lounging, swimming, reading books, doing whatever he wants, really just lounging, hanging out. Elio is this really self-assured, knowledgeable young man, really well-versed in many sophisticated topics. He really sees himself as a very sophisticated young man. Oliver, played by Armie Hammer, is an American doctoral student who comes to visit and spend the summer working as an intern for Michael Stolberg's professor character. And Armie Hammer is kind of the prototypical American in this movie. He's tall, blonde, blue-eyed. There's a running joke throughout that because he's American, every time he leaves a scene, he leaves by saying, "later," because that's what Americans do. And the movie is really just this beautiful to look at film that takes its time to really draw you in. It really takes its time to build this world. And through the film, there's this really slow dance of flirtation between Elio and Oliver, and they take a good hour of this movie as they kind of just have this slow flirtation between each other, knowing that maybe this isn't something that should happen, and eventually they succumb to their desires, and it's this really beautiful, sweet romance between these two guys. They know that no one can know about it, and that it's probably not good for either of their careers or personal lives for people to know about this at this time. And it's really interesting because Elio sees himself as this really worldly, knowledgeable 17-year-old boy, but he quickly realizes that he knows nothing about love and the effects that it has. And Oliver, being the older, more well-versed guy, knows that he has this young man in his hands, and he has to be very careful with him. And so it's a really interesting movie that, like I say, it takes its time, and I really appreciate that. Michael Stolberg as the father in this movie, again, I think he's the greatest character actor we have. Like, everything he's in, he enhances. He was great in The Shape of Water as the Russian spy. Every time I see him, I'm like, I'm going to get a great performance out of this guy. I really enjoyed him. There's this great just sense of restlessness between the two main lead characters as they are just kind of doing this, this dance. But the romance and the chemistry between them feels really real. I'm not a huge Armie Hammer fan. haven't liked most of the things he's done. I really liked him in this.
Yeah.
And Timothée Chalamet, who we just saw recently in Lady Bird as well. He was the guy, like the rocker kid that she started dating for a little while that didn't necessarily care about her so much. So we saw him in that. He was fine in that, in a kind of a lesser role. He was tremendous in this movie. Kind of had to carry a lot of the emotional baggage in this movie. It's a movie that I really enjoyed. It's got some weighty subject matter to it. But I highly recommend it. I think it's a movie that we're going to see some nominations coming here in the next couple of months for both of these. And the music, there's some great music that goes along with this. It just sets the mood perfectly.
What kind of music?
So Sufjan Stevens has a couple of songs in here that are really interesting.
Real nice.
And then there's a lot of because it's dealing a lot with antiquities and art and just all this stuff. So there's also some nice classical music thrown in here that just sets a nice tone. I love it. And so I end up giving this Call Me By Your Name 4.5 stars out of 5. I think it's definitely a movie worth checking out.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
What do you have for us, sir?
Well, I have the last comedy of the year.
Okay.
Father Figures, directed by Lawrence Shear. Ed Helms and Owen Wilson are, unbelievably, they're twins. Ed Helms plays Peter Reynolds. Owen Williams plays Kyle Reynolds. They learned something at their mom's wedding that there's a very good possibility that their father is alive. Ooh. They confront the mother, and the mother's like, you know what? That was like 75. Things were crazy. Not really sure on who your father is, but guess what? It could be Terry Bradshaw. So
Terry Bradshaw.
So these guys, they get together and they're like, you know what? We have our differences. Ed Helms is the character that's really serious and likes to play things by the book, where Owen Wilson, he is the character that just lives life freely, and luck just hands him everything. Of course, they don't get along very well because, by the book people don't like it when not by the book people do better than them. But, whatever. The brothers are getting along, and they go to see Terry Bradshaw, and it sends them on a quest to go to each person that could possibly be their father. This movie has a lot of funny parts. It really does. I like Cat Williams. He plays the hitchhiker, who is a great comedian. There's some really good chemistry between Ed Helms and Owen Wilson. A lot of funny bits, but everything in between the funny bits just feels like they were stringing along an unbelievably, terribly prepared story. I think they should have just took out anything that was supposed to be serious and just leave in the funny parts, because there is a lot of, ha-ha moments in this. It's just, as a story, it really was lacking. There's certain scenes in there where you're wondering where all this conflict is coming from, or where all this love they have for the new father that they're just meeting, even though they just met someone that they thought they loved was their father just a couple hours before that. I wanted a little bit of realism or explanation for a lot of these things. Of course, I didn't get any of it, but there is a lot of funny scenes in this movie.
Right.
Because it's such a terrible story. And I laughed. I ended up giving it a very mediocre score of 2.5. If you don't think these guys are funny, you're going to hate this movie.
Oh, good.
You really are. But if you like comedies, and you might get a couple of chuckles and forgive the rest of it. Either way, mediocre score.
Perfect. Next up on the marquee, we have the third in the Pitch Perfect trilogy, Pitch Perfect 3, aptly titled. From director Trish Sae. We bring all the girls back, and we meet up with them as they are living their lives. The Bellas are living their lives, and we find out that most of them kind of hate their lives. And their only happiness really comes in singing. But they are kind of the old guard of the Bellas. They have kind of been replaced. They are they just want one more time. One more chance to sing together. And so they get booked on a USO tour, and they reunite. They're going to go out. They're going to travel. USO tour with 3 other bands. And then this convoluted plot about DJ Khaled is going to choose whoever the winner is after the USO tour to open for him. This whole DJ Khaled plot is just stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Completely pointless.
Yeah.
But you also have this kind of what felt like it was supposed to be the antagonist group of this girl group led by Ruby Rose, but they're kind of just...
That just fell flat, too.
Yeah, it started with them being these are going to be the flip side of them, and then that just kind of just went by the wayside, more or less.
I was actually hoping to see more of Ruby Rose.
Yeah.
Out of all the actresses out there, she's probably the one I'd have the crush on.
Yeah.
And really, that whole...
She kind of checked out after a while.
Yeah, that whole plot line just kind of...
Because we also had to develop a plot line between Rebel Wilson's character and her daddy issues with Jonathan Lithgow.
And again,
that kind of showed up weird, where suddenly it turned into a spy movie. Our girls have turned into spies. For whatever reason, this starts to try and turn into an action movie. You also have... the one thing I really liked about this is Elizabeth Banks and John Michael Higgins, who are my favorite parts about these movies, who are the commentators, who really just hate the Bellas.
Yeah.
And so now, what are they doing now? They're filming a documentary about the Bellas. They're following around Becca, played by Anna Kendrick, and really just her life is falling apart now. Oh, look at the last chance for the Bellas to fail. I love them together.
But in this case, if you're watching the other Pitch Perfects, which of course we have,
sure.
I feel like their jokes in this one felt a lot short compared to the other
absolutely.
stuff.
And I think that's a huge issue with most of this movie.
Yeah.
Is I really enjoy the first two Pitch Perfects.
Oh, yeah.
And this movie, one of my issues with it is a lot of the plot line made the girls feel really insecure and weak. It felt like all of them were insecure about themselves, and they all had issues that they were dealing with and needed a lot of the issues dealt with. I need this guy to accept me.
Yeah.
Two of them have daddy issues. One of them has an issue with a soldier. All of them have I need this guy to accept me to be worthwhile.
And that's the other plot line that didn't work out too well is all these Pitch Perfects, they usually have some kind of romantic type. And there's a point where Anna Kendrick, she looked like she was going to have a relationship with someone, and that one just also fell completely short.
And it's too bad because I really like these girls. I like this cast, and it felt like a lot of it was let's make the girls really insecure. They also, Becca, the Anna Kendrick character, she kind of had the same plot as the last movie. The last movie was also her having to choose the Bellas or her own success with Snoop Dogg. This time it was DJ Khaled.
Yeah.
Do you want to have the Bellas have success or yourself have success? And it's I've seen this plot before. What are we doing?
Yeah.
It was weird to me.
This movie to me felt like the last hurrah, but no one really cared. They just wanted the group together. I think people who really, really enjoyed the Pitch Perfect movies, they'll be okay with this ending. They're going to see them all together, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I didn't like the journey with them, though. The problem was, I think the fun was gone from the previous movies.
Yeah.
I liked seeing them together. I liked just the battles that they would have with other groups. The antagonists in the other groups were fun. Pitch Perfect 2, that German group, I loved the German group they were going up against. This one, the antagonists were really blah. The fun was gone out of it. The girls were all felt weak and sad, and then all of a sudden, for no reason, out of nowhere, Rebel Wilson's Fat Amy turns into an ass kicker, and she's out pulling Jason Bourne moves. What are we doing? When did this turn into this movie?
And also, one of the main draws of this, besides the humor and the actresses and stuff, you also have the music.
Yeah.
And again, the music fell short compared to the other movies.
I agree. It felt just like a retread.
Yeah.
And I like these movies, and this movie just left me kind of wanting, wishing it was something else.
Yeah.
And I laid at the feet of our director. This is our first real major directing role, and I think that it was just kind of a letdown. I think you have a lot of characters that people enjoy, and she didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah, you had Jonathan Lithgow, and you expect great things from Jonathan Lithgow because he's such a hilarious character, but he played a character that was supposed to be thoroughly evil.
He felt like he was from a whole different movie, like from an Austin Powers movie.
Yeah.
Why would this movie turn into an Austin Powers flick with 30 minutes left in it.
Well, you had to have spies in it for some reason.
So ridiculous. We did not need that. Ultimately, what did you give Pitch Perfect 3?
I give it a 2.5. It's really a bad movie, but I think people who watch the other Pitch Perfect that just need the one last hurrah, you're not going to get a hurrah out of it, but you will probably enjoy seeing all your favorite characters one more time.
Sure. Yeah, I gave it a 2 out of 5. I was really disappointed. I really liked the first two. And
Yeah.
This one was just missing,
Yeah,
misfiring for me. So
I've actually watched those first two quite a few times.
Yeah.
It's they're great movies.
they're really enjoyable. What's the next movie we have, sir?
I have Downsizing.
Yes.
Excuse me, I got this frog in my throat.
Uh-oh.
Directed by Alexander Payne. We have Matt Damon. He and his wife, they really want to do something different with their lives. They work hard all their lives. They don't have that much money. They're okay. But if they help the world by downsizing, which reduces the amount of waste each human being on Earth creates, they could transfer everything they own into a large amount of wealth, have like a mansion, and enjoy the sweet life of small people in a very small community. But literally small. Everything's just shrunk down to
Right.
size. Unfortunately, the Matt Damon's wife backed out at the last minute, and it's just
The problem with that is they show that in the trailer. That
They
should be
did.
a big turn where Kristen Wiig backs out, and
Yeah.
it kind of sets in motion a lot of the events. But they showed you that in the trailer.
They did, and pretty much this is over a 2-hour movie
Yeah.
of Matt Damon in this world. The world is fantastic, but this movie spends way too much time explaining how this world works. Yes, it's fascinating, but it didn't do much to carry along the plot line at all. It's a beautiful film. It's interesting, but when you can't get relationships going because you're constantly explaining how things are small and how it's really cool when you find big things and you go other places and things are small and big and stuff like that, that's great, but not over 2 hours of it. And that's pretty much what I got out of this movie. The last half hour I really thought was endearing. I really liked some of the relationships that they finally built to, but it was a little too late for me to really say this is a fantastic movie.
Yeah,
What
and
did you
that's
think?
the problem because Alexander Payne is a director. I think he's really he excels most of the time with building characters that you care about. I mean, he's done Election, Nebraska, Descendants, Sideways. These are all movies that are character-based films that you really start to care about them. This one, it felt like he relied too much. There was so many sight gags and so many prop gags.
Yeah.
And once you get past those, I'm like, okay, so what's the plot? What's your story? We keep bouncing between these prop gags.
Yeah.
What else? I mean, I love the Easy Bake Oven that the people. I love those. The first half hour, I
Yeah.
really enjoyed. It's that middle of the movie just sagged.
Dragged.
There's a moment where his neighbor Dusan, played by Christoph Waltz, great actor. He goes to a party at Dusan's place, and there's like I don't know, it felt like a 10-12 minute scene where he drops ecstasy and is just partying. It's a scene that in a 2 hour and 12 minute movie that could have been a 2-minute scene. I get the point. Let's go, but no, we're gonna linger on this party forever. And there's just several moments of that where it's like chug, you know. And I like you bring in Hung Chow as this Vietnamese lady who. What was interesting to me was her story was that she was shrunk as like a punishment.
Yeah.
And that she escaped and she was the only one of her kind and she was like a hero.
And again, that's part of the world building because you were like, yeah, okay,
But then it just kind of stalls out for a while with her character. And then this,
Yeah.
I mean, it just felt like it was going from piece to piece, and it felt like it was just the whole movie was totally unfocused on where Alexander Payne wanted to go with it. It felt like he was trying to take on too many weighty issues, overpopulation,
Yeah.
and then the immigration, and all of these little things, and Matt Damon looking for love, and all that comes involved with that. And the movie wasn't able to carry all of these things at once.
No, he spent way too much time world building it. And a lot of these scenes, like I really did like the whole Matt Damon finds this person, wants to help him out so bad. I thought that was endearing, but it just chugged the
Yeah.
movie, and he really needed to take some of his favorite things, no matter how much he liked them, and kind of throw them out just to continue
If this
the story.
movie was 30 minutes shorter, you tightened up that middle section of this movie, it
Yeah.
would be more enjoyable. Instead, it felt like I was being punished sitting through this middle. Like, okay, like let's go with something here.
Yeah.
Like we don't have to just linger on everything.
Yeah.
And it was a little frustrating for me, to be honest. It felt overly long. This movie felt every minute of 2 hours and 12 minutes.
It really did.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, some movies fly right by.
Yeah.
This one did not. What did you end up giving Downsizing?
I give it a 3. I liked the movie. I really did. But like you said, long. And he dealt way too much time on things he really probably shouldn't have. Or maybe save it for a sequel or something.
I mean, it's a cool concept.
Yeah.
I like the concept of it. Unfortunately for me, I didn't go with it all the way, and I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars. I was hoping for more, and I just wasn't thrilled with what I got. So 2 out of 5, not terrible.
No.
There's things in here.
Well, actually, that's in the bad range. It is bad.
It is bad, but it's not terrible. All right, the last movie we have on the marquee for you is The Greatest Showman from director Michael Gracie, starring Hugh Jackman as P.T. Barnum. P.T. Barnum, of course, is the man who brought us the circus, created the circus. Hugh Jackman, we see him struggling with his life. We see him as a young man who is very poor, falls in love with this girl Charity. They grow up. Charity is played by Michelle Williams as an adult. He coerces her into marrying him. She is from a class above his, but he promises her the world. He finally discovers a way to bring about this success that he's looking for so desperately, and he creates the Barnum Museum of Curiosity. He gathers together all these oddities, what you could call a freak show: the bearded lady, the Tom Thumb, the little man, everyone who is different in society, and he gives them a voice. And what's really cool is, I mean, he's empowering these people who hide in the shadows. Mm-hmm. He also has Zendaya as this acrobat. And he lures in Zac Efron, who plays Philip Carlyle. And Philip Carlyle is a man who comes from the upper elite crust, but who wants to do something different and knows that he will be chastised for doing so, for joining the circus. And what P.T. Barnum is really is a man who's kind of always fighting the class struggle. Even after he becomes wildly successful, mm-hmm. people still call him a fraud, and he kind of he is a fraud. But he kind of spends his life, and to some extent, really leaves his family behind as he strives to be accepted by these people who he disdains. Yeah. He hates these people, but he wants them to accept him so desperately. The movie itself, what I really enjoy about this movie is that it celebrates diversity. Mm-hmm. It celebrates accepting who you are. There's a great quote in this movie. It says, "Make no apologies for who you are." I love that. I love that message. Yeah, it's a message that needs to be out there. This is it's a musical for the most part. The guys who wrote the music for La La Land wrote the music for this. Mm-hmm. For me, I really enjoy Hugh Jackman, song and dance man. I think he's one of the few in modern day Hollywood, one of the few song and dance men that we have. Ryan Gosling. There's not many that can pull it off.
That's where I disagree with you on that one. The Hugh Jackman character, he's great. He can sing, he could dance. I just didn't like his singing style at all. It felt too much like I do Broadway. And I understand
he's a stage
that's
guy.
What this is, but there is a musical difference, I feel like there should be in between plays and movies. Mm-hmm. And this one, he came off like, I'm doing a play. And I'm sure if I saw him on the live stage, I would have been clapping my hands off. But in this one, it just felt a little off. You had a lot of other great singers doing some great parts, and they felt like they were singing a song instead of entertaining people.
I thought there were some really great, inspiring numbers in this movie, especially mm-hmm. when the whole cast would come out. You know, the This Is Me and all of these great moments. It's fun, it's colorful, it's exuberant.
Yes.
I also like Zac Efron as a song and dance man, and I like the bar scene between those two when they first met. Mm-hmm. And there's the number that he and Hugh Jackman have. I really like that. The lady who played the bearded lady, Keela Settle, I thought she was amazing in this movie. Yep. She has a great voice.
She has a great voice, and then again, when I hear her, and I heard Hugh Jackman, I was just like, But I'm barking up the wrong tree on that one because you love the.
Oh, I know, yeah. I mean, I enjoyed that. The thing that I thought was interesting about this movie is they really kind of focused on showcasing the virtuous side of P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
And stayed away from there's a sucker born every minute P.T. Barnum.
Well, the true story of P.T. Barnum is
It gets
actually
dark.
extremely dark.
It gets very dark, and there's a movie called Barnum that came out in the 80s, I believe, that focuses on that. This is not that movie.
No.
This is the lighter side, and it is really him giving people what they didn't know they wanted.
Yeah.
P.T. Barnum creating this thing that he called the circus, and just kind of, showing his ability to sell himself, the dreamer and the schemer that was P.T. Barnum.
And he was definitely a schemer in this, in real life. But in this movie, they really did make it seem like, hey, P.T. Barnum, he's everybody's friend. You just got to get to know him a little bit.
That's not the real P.T. Barnum.
No, that's
for
not
sure.
the real man. They had some hints of really dark moments in P.T. Barnum's life, like the fire that they had in New York. That is a very famous fire where lots of animals died.
Yeah.
And they just kind of glossed it over. They were like, no, he went in there and saved somebody. Everything's fine.
We're all good.
Don't look at this. But overall, if you take it for what it is, and that's not a true life story, but a story about diversity and not having people feel ashamed and dance numbers and stuff like that, it's a lot better movie. You just got to try to forget what the real story is while you're doing it.
Right. So ultimately, what did you end up giving The Greatest Showman?
I give it a 3. I liked the movie. I did. I just didn't like it as much as what other people do.
Yeah, I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I liked it. I really thought the numbers were great. I think it's definitely worth watching. It's worth checking out, especially if you like a nice musical.
Yeah.
Give it a watch. So that's what we have this week on the marquee. Let's take a look ahead at what is going to be coming out the weekend of January 5th. Mike, it's going to be a big, busy weekend. We have Insidious 4. That's the movie for you. That's the one movie that will be new in your theaters that weekend.
If I'm only going to get one movie, give me a horror movie.
All right, fair enough. That's where you and I diverge. We take different paths, so that comes. We want to, of course, before we leave you, thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, the Palace here in Sun Prairie. Thank you for sponsoring our show. Thank you for doing all you do. Man, it is crazy busy, and the staff there is working hard, and we appreciate it.
Give 50 bumps to everybody because all those employees really deserve it. They are getting tired.
Doing a great job and putting up with my demands.
Yeah.
Because I go in with a long list of demands.
You are such a diva.
Oh, my goodness.
Take off all the hard parts. I'm like,
absolutely.
All the people who have to shuck your popcorn.
It's ridiculous, but I want it fresh. So, if you want to find more from us, you can find us online. If you are on Facebook, find us Real Reviews TV. We'll get you where you need to be. If you follow us on Twitter, @Real Reviews TV. If you want to see 192 episodes of Real Reviews, you can go to sunprairiemediacenter.com and go on the on-demand player to find all of the previous episodes. Or if you want to see us on YouTube, you can go on there by searching Real Reviews, KSUN. That's K-Sun, the mother station here. That has all of us in beautiful, glorious HD, if that's what you need. You know what? Coming up next week, we're going to be talking about Jumanji, which we also have Molly's Game, the new movie with Jessica Chastain and Idris Elba. And All the Money in the World, the movie that is famously, in a 3-week span, they replaced Kevin Spacey with Christopher Plummer.
Ah, you're right.
They just said, Kevin Spacey, you're a monster, and we need to replace you. Let's reshoot the movie in a span of a few weeks. That's what we're going to be talking about.
I'm going to be really interested in seeing how that played out.
Yeah. I can't wait to talk about it.
And next week, we're also bringing back the throwback.
The throwback segment, of course. We did not have a throwback this week. It is because of the Packed House show that we had.
Yep.
Next week, we will have the throwback back for those of you who love that. That's some people's favorite segment. We get bags full of letters saying, we love throwbacks.
My favorite segment is the beginning, where I'm usually making commentary. No one else can see me do it.
Right, exactly. Appreciate that. All right, well, until next week when we're talking about Jumanji and other things, I'm Jameson.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.